And joining us now by phone from Brisbane is one of the three independents, the member for Kennedy, Bob Katter. Bob Katter, your reaction first of all to Tony Abbott's decision not to submit coalition policies to the Treasury for costing.
Well, I mean, the initial reaction, not the initial reaction, the reaction of everybody in Australia would be, what's Tony got to hide here? Now, if he thinks that we're gullible enough to be listening to Henry and taking his word as the last word, well, I mean, this is the bloke that butchered the mining tax. I wouldn't be very impressed with his abilities at all. But I most certainly think that it is our duty as responsible members of Parliament to have costings done on both sides, the promises of both sides of the Parliament. Then Henry may well have prejudice. I'd naturally assume that if he's the Chief of Treasury for the current government, he'd naturally have prejudices for that government. I'd be surprised if he wouldn't. And that would be taken into account, I'm quite sure, by Tony and Rob Oakeshott and myself.
Well, Mr Abbott said you will get access to his shadow ministers and you will get access to the private auditing firm they commissioned to do their costings. Is that not good enough for you?
Well, I mean, one would hope that there is some objectivity left in the public service. And it would be very irresponsible of us not to go to the Public Service of Australia to assess what is being put forward by Tony Abbott. And I just can't understand Tony Abbott's intransigence on this issue. And, of course, he's the one that looks so bad. Now, if he looks so bad and he's got something to hide, it makes it much more difficult for us to give him the gong to become Prime Minister.
He said the public service was not capable of doing the costings, or effectively not capable of doing the costings on coalition policies. It somehow wouldn't be appropriate for them to be doing it.
Well, I hardly think a private firm paid by him would be the last word on it either. I mean, I'm a person who served in ministry for the best part of a decade. I'm used to doing these things. I've been in business for myself over a long period of time. I mean, we would take into account the fact that his accountants are his accountants. They're not public servants. Right. There's accountants. I wouldn't be trusting a man that dreamed up the mining tax for Australia. I would expect some objectivity from the public service.
Can I just interrupt you for a moment? I mean, you obviously had talks with Tony Abbott today. Did he not warn you that this was going to happen, that he wasn't going to put his policies through to costings to the public servants?
No, and I think Tony Windsor's remarks are very prescient here. He said today at the press club and a number of times in various press conferences that we've attended that he will be dealing with people who are going to act in good faith and who genuinely want to see stable, good government for Australia. Well, I mean, I hardly think that us taking the word of privately contracted auditors hired by the Liberal Party is going to be an objectivity that the people of Australia... And for us to give the gong to somebody and give them a blank cheque, no way, Jose. I mean, that is not the act of responsible members of Parliament. And people who have real power at the present moment, they wouldn't be acting responsibly if they just gave a blank cheque to Tony Abbott or to Julia Gillard or to anybody.
I said Bob Katter, I said at the beginning of the program that Tony Abbott made barely a misstep during the campaign. Would you regard this on his part as a terrible blunder?
Yes, I do. And it comes on the top of rather foolish behaviour from a couple of his National Party people as well. Now, if they're playing some sort of a cute game to go back to the Australian people, well, I wish you well, son. But if you think the Australian people are going to put up with this sort of tomfoolery, you've got another thing coming. You're reading things out there very, very badly indeed. The people will not be keen to be racing off to the polls again. They've made their statement, they've told you what they want, and they want you to make it work. And if you're not prepared and you say to them, they're wrong, I'm going to race off and make you all go and have another election again. Well, they're going to be very, very angry indeed. But it just doesn't seem to me, I'm not impressed at all with the genuineness that they want to sit down and have a government in which independent country people should be playing a significant role.
OK, all right. Bob Catter, we're going to have to leave you there. Thank you very much for taking that call as you've just arrived in Brisbane. We'll speak to you again soon, no doubt. Thank you very much.